Hey Spuddies, PotatoMcWhiskey here, and welcome to Let's Play Civilization 6 as Arabia. So we're churning along with the old science victory. We are waiting for the last two techs here. Shouldn't take us too long to win this game. Whatever, I'll put a farm there, who cares? At this point, you can go and head over here to be fed into the project of space. It's gotta be mostly me ending the turn, actually. It's kind of a little... I often find the space race victory type can be a little bit anticlimactic. You know, it's kind of like... you know what? Actually, if I'm thinking about it, I feel like every victory in Civilization 6 is a bit anticlimactic. It feels like all the cool stuff happens in the early game. And really, the end game is like this just kind of silly, weird place where things that happen don't really matter in some strange kind of way, even though the things that should happen in the late game should be the most significant. So I think that's definitely something that the developers of Civilization 6 really need to address. I feel like the late game just feels not totally awful, but I feel like there's a good set of ideas here, but I think buildings in the late game take too long to build for how long they're going to be around. So yeah, they have like really cool yields and stuff, but, you know, I'd almost be better off just settling like 20 cities and just building libraries and then never building research labs. You know, that's kind of how I feel. And I think that's still a big problem with the game that needs to be addressed. And I really don't know how to fix that problem because it's just been an endemic problem to the game for a very long time. And yeah, I don't know. I need to get my alliance back with Australia. You'd pay me, right? Pay me 1,000 gold. We'll call it 950. How about that? 950 gold. Deal. I'll take it. Deal or no deal? That's a deal for me, dog. Whatever. What do? You're going to go to sleep because I don't care about you. And you're going to trade with Oslo. Yay! And then we're going to go to the next turn. Yay! And you're going to go sleep here. Yay! But yeah, that's really how I feel. I just feel like the end game is this weird anticlimactic, not mess. I think mess is a bit harsh, but this should be the era where really cool and interesting things happen, and oftentimes it's like the least interesting era of the game, and I don't know, it doesn't feel good. Right, let's get a lighthouse so we can get another trade route. Why not? I got an archaeologist over here. Hey, isn't that cool? Too bad they take too long to build to do anything meaningful for me. Just make it a broadcast center. You go to sleep. I want you to wake up and then go to sleep. And then I want you to go to sleep as well. Spread my religion because I don't really care anymore. I am jaded and broken inside. But that's just a normal day of the week for me, you know? Yeah, I really don't know how to fix it. The problems are... The game... I feel like the game has so many really great ideas, but it's just so...
I'm a big laser believer. I really think they are the wave...
Whatever, just get all this stuff, I don't care. 6 turns. What can I do in 6 turns? Get me a trader. It's this weird, it's just in a weird place, right? Where you know, the things that happen in the first 100 turns are like 100 times more significant than the things that happen in the last 100 turns. And I just feel like that's wrong. I feel like everything should have similar amounts of significance throughout the game. Because otherwise you get into this weird place, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have experienced this, where you play a game of Civ and you get to like, I want to say, maybe like late medieval, Renaissance / industrial, and you're just kind of like, I just want to start a new game because all the interesting stuff has happened, right? Unless you're going for culture. I think culture is the only victory type that remains interesting almost throughout the entire game. Sure, we'll do that. Get the lighthouse, then go for the amphitheater. Trade with Adelaide. Then I'm going to purchase another trader. Yeah, I really see it's a hard problem to fix, right? Because it's actually a more unique problem to Civ 6. I mean, it was still kind of happened in the other Civ games, but I think it's especially a problem in the in Civ 6 more than other ones. At least that's how I feel. We do have globalization now, so that's going to be fun. We are going to slot in 2 really important cards. The first one is plus 10% city-state science, and then we're going to put in the plus production from trade routes right there. So now things should finish up nice and quickly. A lot of science here. We're going to choose our civic. Whatevs. I don't think it really matters. We'll just go for future civic. Go ahead and get that. Yeah, we'll promote you. Sure, why not? There you go. Theater Square production. Cool. And we'll promote you. Sure. Curator. Cool. And yeah, there you go. That's that. Not like any of that matters. I fully promoted her, which got me an era score, although it doesn't matter anymore because, the game's over. Let's go ahead and get the gold here, and we'll go to the next turn. I mean, like, it's 1716 AD. Okay, and I understand they're never going to get this to fully line up perfectly, right? But I'm launching space missions in 1716 AD. I've had tanks for like 100 years. I feel like they really need to work on the pacing. The pacing is just... I want to say the pacing is the #1 issue with the game. That I have, and I'm really not sure how to fix it. I think it can be fixed. I just don't know what the fix is. It's a hard problem to even describe, let alone address. I mean, it just and I often use wishy-washy words like it feels wrong, but it's really hard to describe it in any other way other than it kind of just feels wrong. It just feels a little rough. I don't know. But I do want to take this time to kind of address it, because I do this in almost every series. Towards the late game, I'll talk about my problems with the late game. But I think it's important to talk about it just constantly because, the off chance that Firaxis actually, watches my videos, maybe they'll get my feedback and maybe that'll help improve the game. I'm just going to go ahead and send you to the industrial zone. To counter spy, and then I'm going to send you to the neighborhood to counter spy, just so I have maximum protection of my space zone, because I don't want to get it pillaged and make me take a few extra turns. Like, that would just be a pain in the ass, to be honest. Yep, art museum, broadcast center, just kind of keeping these guys busy. Where could I go ahead and pick up more? Yeah, head down there. You're going to head over to here. Like, I'm curious, what do you guys feel like? Like, I know some of my viewers don't actually really play Civilization 6 all that much, and they prefer to just kind of screw around a little bit. But some of you, I know for a fact, go into like the late game and you do full games and you do challenges for yourself and all that sort of stuff. But do you share my feelings on the late game? Like, it's just like, how would you fix the late game? I don't really know. It's something I've come up with, like, I want to say dozens of ideas to help address some of the late game problems. But I mean, I don't know if they're the right moves. It's this sort of thing where it's, I mean, this might work. Sure, this thing might improve things, but I mean, maybe it won't. I need to have you protect that spaceport, actually. So let me counter spy spaceport. Let's get this artifact. Saladin mask, cool. It feels like I'm trying to like sum up. I'm trying to sum up my feelings. And that can be quite difficult if you're a little bit unsure about your feelings. Like, I have some certainty about certain things, right? But it's hard to exactly sort of say this is the problem or that is the problem or this is what's wrong and this is what needs to be fixed. That's a tall order to ask me to try to do that. I mean, whatever. We'll just like purchase all of these things. One of my problems with the game is like the seaports just or harbors in general just feel really kind of terrible. I feel like harbors need to be not necessarily entirely changed, but reworked a little bit. They need to feel, I don't know, more important. And I feel like districts in general, like they have these really cool ideas. that's how I'm going to sum up my feelings. I feel like Civilization is a bunch of really, really amazing, wonderful, cool, awesome, excellent, beautiful, my dude ideas that all just kind of don't quite hit the mark. They just don't quite get where they need to be in terms of their mechanics to be what they should be. You know, is that a fair way to describe it? I'm just going to build an airdrome district here because that might give me like a few points of production. Maybe I'll get an encampment too. Right here. I don't know, man. The game is just in... Don't get me wrong. All the cool ideas, they're a lot of fun to play with, but when you're actually playing the game, you get into a game and you're kind of like, this mechanic feels pointless. And then you're like, well, what do I do now? Like, I'm already invested in this game, I'm so many turns in, and I'm on this project, and sometimes it can feel like, you know, I'm struggling to make the game fun. Now, the game is really fun, don't get me wrong, but sometimes I feel like I'm fighting the game's mechanics sometimes, and that they're like a disappointing son, you know. They had so much potential and so much promise, and then they just ended up just not delivering. Is really, I guess, the best summation of my feelings. Is just, I feel like there's really, really, really cool things that just end up not being that cool at all. Sure, I mean, I've got 3 envoys. May as well get suzerainty of something here. Like, what's this? Stupas? Trade units are immune to plunder. Sure. I really don't know how else to describe it. It's just... Civilization 6 isn't a disappointing game. It's a game filled with great ideas and then disappointing execution, in my opinion. And I really, you know, I've been really holding off for and looking out for really cool mods that maybe address some of those problems. But I feel like the modding community in Civ 6 feels very haphazard and feels very, you know, they're trying to build mods for the game as if it was Civ 5 almost. And even they are struggling to embrace the new Civ 6 mechanics. Don't get me wrong, there are some really cool mods. I think we're actually running with some of the coolest mods in the game. Like Terra Mirabilis is such a cool mod. I think that is one of the mods I've seen that really says this mod takes like the baseline mechanics and just makes them like, it takes their fundamentals and then makes them into something that, like, I would believe. If someone told me this was how the game worked, I would believe them. You know? And I think that's the goal of a mod. I think the goal of any sort of gameplay mod or thing of that nature is to try to make it seem like you... Well, I've talked about this a little bit before, but basically... I often have haphazard and disparate thoughts, and I kind of flip back and forth between how I feel about certain things. But I kind of feel like mods are about creating... They're about fixing things is one way to do mods, but they're also about creating things that are cool, right? And I feel like Terra Mirabilis is one of those mods that like perfectly nails the cool factor. It makes natural wonders just way cooler, and that's a thing I can really appreciate, because I mean, sure, they're pretty cool, but they're not like amazing. They're just okay in the base game. Like, oh, cool. And another thing is, I feel like Terra Mirabilis helped kind of flatten the power curve between different natural wonders. Because certain natural wonders in the base game are just like crazy, where, you know, you get certain natural wonders like this one here. If you get this in like one of your first 2 or 3 cities, it's like game changing. Whereas something like the I don't know, like Mount whatever that Indian mountain is Mount Everest or whatever. Mount Everest just doesn't feel that same impact. I'm trying to think of a good one, like Giant's Causeway. That's like a game-changing natural wonder, whereas something like I don't know. It's hard to think of these examples. Like the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea just it doesn't really do a whole lot. It just kind of is and does and isn't amazing. It just kind of, it's okay, you know? Or build a circus maximum, see if I care. Alright, we've got 4 turns here to get through. You just counter spy in the harbor. I want to make sure that nobody pillages my spaceport. I've got as many people overlapping and protecting as possible. We'll go ahead and create that great work there. You're going to run over here and create another farm. We'll go to the next turn. I think one of the biggest problems with the game is, and I've talked about this before, about the buildings, and the buildings are one of the biggest problems with the game, I think. They have so much cool potential for buildings, and I also think the other thing that's wrong with the game is the lack of cross-district synergy. So, I've talked about this before. What if you built a theater square next to an encampment? Maybe that could enable a national wonder called like maybe there would be different eras. Like maybe you could build one in the ancient era that would be like the Hall of Glory, and it would give you culture from kills or something. And then you could build another national wonder maybe later in the game, like the National Cemetery, that would be beside a military an encampment and a holy site, and then that gives you some benefit when your units die. Like every time you lose a unit, maybe the National Cemetery gets +1 culture, which also gives you +1 tourism or something. You know, like you could do these. They don't have to make the game better. Like they don't have to make the game more functional. They just have to be interesting and fun to play with, in my opinion. I think that's one of the biggest problems with the games too, is that it lacks cool stuff. It's got really, really, really cool ideas that are executed weakly. What do you do again, Carl Sagan? Oh, you're okay. I don't know. I'm still not sure about that one. But even something simple like if you built a holy site next to a theater square, maybe you could make you could run projects during, like, you could get a golden age where you can spend money to commission religious great works of art. You know what I mean? Like that would be really, really cool. And maybe you could only do it during like the medieval Renaissance era. You know, like just have timed things that you can do so that you have to make choices between what you want to do. And sometimes you might find yourself in a situation where maybe you hadn't planned for this, but it's actually going to work out pretty okay for you. You know, I just think there's way cooler stuff. But anyway, we won the game. Pretty much on autopilot at that point, because it's the late game, and the late game is probably the most trivial part of the game. You can see here, my culture per turn was pretty good most of the game. You can see here, I'll flash this so you can kind of see. Again, typical stuff. I'm really low in the early game, and then right about, halfway through the game, I start to spike up very strongly. You'll see the same sort of thing for science per turn. I start off pretty low tier in the science. And then about halfway through the game, I'm pretty much the dominant scientific power. Although, these guys did really well in late game. The other one is the total buildings constructed is usually the one that like shows the most difference between me and the AI. The AI tends to get a lot of buildings really, really early, get ahead of me, and then right about halfway of the game, I start to nearly double their buildings constructed. I don't know why that is. Only 2 AIs kept up with me at all that game. You can see also total number of combats, total wars declared. I built basically no wonders, even though I installed a mod for wonders. That's another area of the game that I think needs to work. I think maybe there should be some wonders that go inside districts, and maybe they don't need a tile. I think that should be a thing, or maybe certain wonders act like a district. Maybe you could build a national port and it acts like a harbor district, but it has unique benefits and all that sort of stuff. I just think what I need is like a really talented modder. A really talented modder to just like sit inside my head take all my cool ideas and then make them even cooler and execute them well. Because I just don't have the time to make mods. I've been trying to make mods to try to make the game more interesting, but it's a lot of time. It's a lot of time to put that together. But we can go ahead and have a look at our empire, I suppose. We can like turn off all this stuff and just kind of view the empire. Like, and this is another part of the game that I think is really cool. Like, the game is visually astounding. It's beautiful, really. And I think that's one of my favorite parts of the game, is just how pretty things are. Like there's little uranium over here that I never improved, and this little ice cities. One of my favorite things is that the buildings seem to take on aspects of the terrain they're on. So for example, this city is in tundra biome, so you can see there's a little bit of snow on the buildings. I think that's something I really, really love that. And I think, do I have a city near the desert? It can be kind of hard to tell, but I think there's like a little bit of deserty stuff going on too, mostly in the snow biome, which is I'm a big fan of. This game is so great, but it could be so much more, and I think that's my biggest complaint with it, is that it's not what it could be. It's really, really good, but it's not what it could and should be. I mean, look at all this. This is beautiful. This is amazing. We've got the Zimbabwe in here. We've got like all these districts. Like the game just looks amazing. Zoomed up, zoomed out. Zip zap zippity zip. I don't know. There's some of my thoughts. There's some of my feelings. That's it. We won this game. It was pretty easy, but it was an Emperor game. It was to kind of chill out in the after the aftermath of all those extremely difficult deity games. But I want to thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys are enjoying this series. I hope you guys enjoyed this series. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Please do, if you want to directly support my channel, make sure you consider joining the channel as a sponsor. Also consider joining the channel as a subscriber. Make sure you leave a like, all that stuff. I'm not going to tell you to ring the bell because you know where to find me. Like, I mean, if you want to watch me, you're going to find me. Don't ring the bell. I mean, I put out like multiple videos a day. Don't waste your notifications on that. Unless you really want to, you know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm in a weird mood today. And I've been having some thoughts. I've been having some thoughts about the direction of the channel and things I want to do with the channel. And maybe this isn't the right place to talk about it, but maybe I'll do like an update video today too. Yeah, I'll do that. Okay, I love you all very much, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.